The skies of planet Oron burned orange as the twin suns set behind the crystal peaks. The interworld combat trials were about to begin. Every year, fighters from different planets came to Oron to prove their skill, their strength, and their honor. This year, a new name appeared on the roster, one that brought surprise and confusion. Human. Most of the crowd had never heard of humans in any great battle. They were known as builders, thinkers, farmers, not warriors. When his name was announced, some aliens laughed, others looked at each other in silence. Among the elite fighters stood a tall figure in silver armor. Her skin was dark green, and her golden eyes shone with pride. She was known as Vela of Velen Prime, fastest among her people. Unbeaten in 7 systems, she had won the trials last year and the year before that. When she saw Tom, her lip curled into a smile, a slow one. She watched him step onto the training field. No armor, just simple clothes. He did not carry a weapon. His walk was quiet, his face calm. "What is this?" Vela said aloud. "They send a farmer to a warrior's ground." No one answered her, but the nearby fighters chuckled. Tom stood at the edge of the field, watching the others. He didn't speak. He only looked. His eyes moved from one fighter to another. He studied how they moved, how they stood, how they breathed. No one noticed his focus. They only saw his silence. Vela walked up to him. She stood taller, stronger, and her voice was clear. "Human, did your people send you here to watch, or do you plan to run in the first round?" Tom looked up at her. His voice was soft. "I plan to stay." That answer brought more laughter from the others. Vela stepped back, shaking her head. "We'll see how long you stay when the trials begin." The next morning, the first round was set. All fighters were placed in random matches. Tom's name appeared on the screen next to a massive beast from Crawl. Its body was thick with plates, and its hands held burning claws. The crowd cheered as the beast roared. Tom walked into the arena with slow steps. His hands were empty. No sword, no shield. The Crawl beast slammed its fists into the ground, breaking pieces of stone. High in the stands, Vela sat with her arms crossed. She leaned toward the screen, smiling. "This will be quick." A loud horn echoed across the arena. The match began. The Crawl beast rushed forward. Its claws moved in wide circles, aiming to crush Tom with one blow. Tom stepped aside. The claws missed. Again, the beast turned and attacked. Tom moved back, then forward. No panic. No fast steps, only small, careful movements. The crowd waited for Tom to attack. He didn't. Vela yawned. "He's just lucky. He'll fall soon." But the fight continued. The beast grew tired. It swung too hard, missed too much. Tom waited for one opening. Then he moved in, ducked low, and struck with one sharp elbow under the beast's arm. The beast froze. Then it fell. The arena went silent. No one moved. Then came the cheers, loud and rising. Some stood up. Some stared in shock. Tom walked out of the arena the same way he walked in, calm, silent. In the fighters' hall, Vela stood waiting. She crossed her arms again as Tom passed. "That was a trick," she said. "You got lucky." Tom paused. He looked at her for a second, then kept walking. Vela called after him. "Try that against someone who sees everything." Tom said nothing. That night, in the training quarters, fighters spoke of the human. Some called it a surprise. Others still believed it was chance. But one thing was clear. No one ignored him anymore. Vela trained harder. She practiced with 2 blades, slicing through wind targets and moving dummies. She watched the recordings of Tom's match 3 times. "He's not fast," she said to herself. "He's waiting, watching, hiding something." She didn't like it. She didn't understand it. Back on Earth, people learned to fight in different ways. Not all humans were soldiers, but those who survived Earth's harsh times knew how to think in the middle of danger. They knew how to move with purpose, not noise. Tom was one of those people. Vela had speed, power, and skill, but she had something else too, pride. That pride had never been broken. Not yet. As the second round approached, the names were called. Again, Tom was still in. And so was Vela. All around the galaxy, more eyes turned to planet Oron. They wanted to see how long the human could last, but some wanted to see something else. They wanted to see what would happen when Vela and Tom stood on the same ground again. The morning sun rose slowly over the mountain towers of Oron. The second round of the interworld combat trials was ready to begin. Fighters from across the galaxy gathered near the arena. Their faces were serious. The matches were no longer simple warm-ups. Now the real battles would begin. Tom stood near a small bench, stretching his arms and neck. He watched the screen in the center of the Sky Plaza. Names of fighters glowed one by one. His match had not been called yet. Around him, whispers floated. In the air. That human is still here. He must be lucky. No way he wins twice. Vela sat nearby, sharpening her blades with a stone that sparked with each stroke. Her eyes watched Tom without hiding it. She leaned toward a fellow fighter from Villain Prime and whispered something. The fighter laughed out loud. Tom heard it, but gave no reaction. Vela stood and walked over to him. She had a strong presence. Every step made others move aside. She stopped a few feet away from Tom. Still pretending to be calm, she asked, "You barely won your first match. A beast that moves like a mountain is not a real test." Tom looked at her and replied, "Then I hope the next one is faster." Vela raised an eyebrow. She did not expect that answer. Before she could speak again, a voice echoed from the arena tower. "Next match, human, Tom versus Zeri of Telvar." The name Zeri made several fighters nod. Zeri was known for her speed and light-step combat. Her forelegs moved like water over stone. Her long arms held twin spears made from frozen gas. She never lost to a single opponent in the past 3 years. Vela smiled. "Now you'll see what speed really means." Tom gave a short nod and walked toward the arena gates. The doors opened with a hiss. He stepped inside calmly. High above, thousands watched from floating screens. Some had already picked favorites. Some placed bets. Most believed the same thing. Tom's luck was about to run out. Inside the arena, the ground was smooth glass, slippery and hard to control. It was made for speed fighters. This was Zari's favorite field. The announcer's voice filled the air. "Match begins in 3 breaths." The crowd counted. 1, 2, 3. A blast rang out. Zeri moved first. Her body flashed across the arena. Her spears spun in circles. She struck low, high, and sideways in seconds. Tom moved slowly at first. He didn't step back too far. He dodged with slight tilts of his body. His foot dragged just enough to change his balance. The first strike missed. The second too. The third scraped his shoulder. A shallow line of red appeared. In the viewing hall, Vela leaned forward. Her smile was sharp. "He cannot keep this up." Tom narrowed his eyes. He waited. Zeri spun again and came in close. Her movement was fast, but her pattern was not random. She always stepped with her left first. Her right spear always led the strike. Tom bent low, swept his leg in a circle. Zeri lost her footing for 1 second. It was enough. Tom moved behind her, placed his hand on her back, and gave a quick push. Zeri slid across the glass and dropped her weapons. She tried to stand but slipped again. Tom waited. He did not attack. She stood, growled, and charged again. This time her eyes burned with anger. But anger changed her steps. They became heavy. Her rhythm broke. Tom moved to the side, grabbed one of her spears in midair, and pointed it at her chest. The horn sounded. The match was over. The crowd stood in shock. Another win. The human was still in the trials. Tom dropped the spear and turned away. In the shadows, Vela's smile faded. She folded her arms tightly. "He's hiding something." That night, the fighters returned to the halls. Some looked at Tom with respect, others with caution. No one laughed. Vela walked into the meal hall and sat across from Tom. "You knew her pattern," she said. "Yes," he replied. "She was one of the fastest in the trials." She said again. She repeated the same steps. He replied. Vela studied him. Her mind worked through each part of the fight. "You don't fight with speed. You fight with rhythm." Tom nodded. Vela leaned forward slightly. "Do all humans fight like you?" Tom looked at his drink and answered, "No. But those who survive long enough learn how." Vela tapped the table with one finger. "I still don't believe you can beat someone who changes pattern." Tom said nothing. "You haven't faced me yet." She added. Still no answer. She stood and walked away, her steps loud on the metal floor. Behind her, Tom sat quietly, watching the screen that showed the next day's schedule. His name was moving upward. Soon, there would be fewer fighters left. The final rounds were getting close. Outside, the skies of Oron turned dark blue. Stars appeared one by one. Inside the halls, tension grew. Strong fighters were falling. Unexpected. Names were rising, and one human was now the most talked about name in the trials. The sun had not yet touched the sky, but the halls of the arena were already full of noise. Fighters trained in every corner. Some sharpened weapons. Some stretched and ran across the practice fields, and some sat in silence, waiting for their name to be called again. Tom stood alone near the edge of a wide balcony. Below him, he could see the empty arena floor. The lines of the next battleground were being drawn by machines, different patterns each round. No one knew what to expect. Behind him, heavy footsteps echoed. Vela walked in, her armor shining in the morning light. She stopped a few feet away. "You're calm, as always," she said. Tom looked back at her and nodded. "You watched me fight," she added. "I've been in this tournament longer than you. I've won more matches. But now, everyone talks about you." Tom didn't respond. He turned his eyes back to the field. Vela stepped closer. "I want to understand something. What are you hiding? You're not fast. You're not strong. But you keep winning. Why?" Tom turned his head slightly. "I don't need to be fast if I see everything before it happens." Vela crossed her arms. "I see everything too, but I don't wait." "That's the difference," Tom said. A voice rang out from the announcement system. "Attention. Final four matchups are ready. Prepare for challenge announcement." Both fighters looked at the screen. A grid appeared. The final for names were shown. Vela versus Torque of Drantum versus Rulo of Varn. Winner of each match would move to the final. Rulo of Varn was known for his strength. His fists were said to crack mountains. He wore no armor, only thick wraps on his hands. His eyes glowed red from birth. Many feared his silent rage. Vela laughed when she saw the matchups. "You fight a beast. I fight a blade dancer. Let's see if we both reach the end." Tom nodded again. Vela stepped forward and said in a low voice, "When we fight, don't hold back." Tom looked at her calmly. "I won't." The fighters moved toward the main hall. Their matches were only minutes away. Rulo stood in the corner of the prep room. His chest was wide, his muscles firm like stone. When Tom entered, Rulo stared at him without emotion. The guards opened the gate. "Step forward." Tom and Rulo entered the arena. The floor was covered in dust and rocks, making it hard to move with speed or grace. A perfect field for someone like Rulo, not for someone like Tom. The crowd was loud. They wanted power. They wanted a show. The signal rang. Rulo charged without a sound. No roar. No scream. Just movement and weight. His first swing shook the ground. Tom stepped aside. Not far. Just enough. A second punch came. Tom ducked and rolled over a small rock, landing softly behind him. Rulo turned fast and struck again. A stone flew into the air from his impact. Tom moved back. His eyes locked on the fighter's knees and shoulders. He wasn't looking at the punches. He was watching what came before. Rulo rushed again. This time Tom didn't run. He stepped in closer, grabbed the wrap on Rulo's wrist, and turned his body sideways. The weight of the giant worked against him. Rulo stumbled, but didn't fall. He swung backward, caught Tom on the side. The human flew across the ground, landing with a hard thud. The crowd stood. The announcer raised his voice. First hit scored by Rulo of Varn. Tom pushed himself up. His breath was steady. His left arm hung low. It was hurt, maybe broken, but his eyes were clear. Rulo moved again, faster now, trying to end the match. Tom moved in circles. He stayed just out of reach. His feet brushed dust into the air. Then, without warning, Tom rushed forward. the crowd gasped. Rullo raised his arm to block, but Tom didn't strike his chest. He slid under, grabbed the back of Rullo's knee, and twisted. Rullo dropped to one leg. Tom jumped up and struck the side of his neck with his elbow. The horn sounded. Silence. Then the roar of the crowd. Tom stepped back. His chest rose and fell slowly. His left arm shook from the pain, but he stayed standing. Rullo sat on the ground. He didn't move for a moment. Then he gave a small nod of respect. Tom returned the gesture. In the halls above, Vela had watched everything. He was hurt. Still won, she whispered to herself. He seized before the strike. Later that night, both winners were called to the same room. Tom entered first. Vela arrived soon after. The guards stood by the door. A small table held two cups of water. Vela walked up and placed her hand on the table. We're the last two. Tom nodded. I watched your fight, she said. You used his strength against him. You saw his weakness before he moved. I watched yours too, Tom replied. You broke his rhythm by changing yours. You didn't rush. Vela looked at him, surprised. You noticed? Yes, you didn't fight like before. You adapted. Vela stepped closer. So did you? They stood in silence for a moment. Then Vela said, Tomorrow we fight. I won't go easy. Tom looked straight into her eyes. Neither will I, she smiled. Not mocking this time, a real smile. Double quotes good. I don't want another easy win. As she walked away, Tom looked at the ceiling. The final match was set. No tricks left, no surprises. Only one match remained. And this time, both fighters were ready. The arena was quiet in the early morning. Workers moved across the field, placing stone tiles, shaping platforms, and checking each part of the floor. The final battleground was being prepared. This match was not just for honor. It was for legacy. Across the city, lights blinked on every screen. Shops closed early. Markets went silent. Citizens gathered in homes and halls to watch one thing. The final fight, Tom of Earth versus Vela of Velen Primino. One had expected this match. Not at the start. Vela was a legend already. Her name was written in stories and news across the stars. Tom was a mystery, a human who came with no weapon, no fame, and no loud words, yet here they stood, both undefeated. Inside the fighter's waiting room, Tom stood by a metal wall, wrapping his left arm carefully. It was still bruised from the last fight, but he could move it. That was enough. A soft sound came from the door. Vela entered. Her armor was polished silver. Her eyes were calm. You ready, human? She asked. Tom turned and gave a small nod. No speeches. She asked again. I'll save the talking for after the fight, he said. She smirked, then walked closer. She looked at his wrapped arm. You're hurt. Tom answered. It still works. Vela didn't reply. She looked him in the eye and said, Don't fall too fast. I waited a long time for a real challenge. Tom stepped forward. Then don't blink. Before they could say more, the door opened. A guard motioned with his hand. It's time. The two fighters walked out side by side. A long hallway led them toward the open arena. Lights above flashed red, then white. The crowd outside was already roaring. As they stepped into the sunlight, the noise grew louder. The entire stadium stood to watch. The field was shaped like a cross. For tall platforms stood at each point. The center was flat stone with rings, marked in black lines. The outer walls were sharp and steep. There was no space to run, only space to fight. The announcer's voice echoed in the air. This is the final match of the Interworld Combat Trials. Two warriors stand before us. One is fast like lightning. One is calm like water. Only one will remain. The fighters stepped into the center ring. They faced each other. The crowd became silent. The announcer called out, 3, 2, 1, begin. Vela moved first. Her body rushed forward in a blur. Her blades cut through the air with grace and speed. She aimed for Tom's side, then twisted her wrist and struck at his neck. But Tom was no longer there. He had stepped backward at the perfect time, just enough to dodge the slice. He didn't block. He didn't attack. He waited. Vela turned. Swung again. Fast, clean. Deadly. Tom moved to the left, then to the right. His steps were small, but exact. He never wasted motion. Vela kept pressing, her blades dancing with light, but she couldn't touch him. The crowd began to shift. First they cheered for Vela, then they watched with open mouths as Tom continued to vanish just before each strike. He wasn't running. He was predicting. Vela stopped after 10 strikes. She stepped back, breathing hard. "You're not even fighting," she said. Tom stood with both feet planted firm. "I am. I'm just not doing it your way." She narrowed her eyes. "Then show me your way." This time Tom moved first. He stepped forward, then to the side, then back again. Vela followed. She watched his feet, tried to guess the next move, but he didn't attack like others. He didn't swing without reason. Suddenly, Tom ducked low and tapped her leg with his hand. Just a tap. Then he moved behind her. Vela spun, sliced, but hit only air. The crowd gasped. Vela's heart raced. Her pride burned. She had never missed this much. She took a deep breath and slowed down. Tom watched. She raised her blades again, but this time did not rush. She circled him, changed her steps, tried to break his rhythm. She faked a move, then struck from the other side. Tom blocked with his injured arm. The blow landed, but he absorbed it. He stepped into her guard and pushed her back with his shoulder. Now she was on the edge. Vela regained her footing and lunged forward with both blades. She aimed one high and one low, a clever move, but at the last second, Tom vanished again. Not with speed, but with perfect timing. Vela's blades cut nothing. Then she felt something. A hand touched her back. She turned fast, swung wide, but Tom was already gone. The crowd was on its feet. The announcer shouted, "He's moving like a shadow. She can't catch him." Vela backed away. She breathed hard. She looked at Tom, who now stood calmly with his arms low. She smiled. "You're not just fighting me. You're teaching me." Tom didn't answer. The next moment, Vela dropped her speed. She changed her steps. She attacked with patience, not pride. She stopped chasing. Tom nodded to himself. Now it was a real fight. The match turned into a dance. Two fighters, one fast and proud, one quiet and sharp, moving like water and flame. The arena shook with their movement. The final strike hadn't come yet, but everyone could feel it was close. In the last moments, both stood facing each other, waiting for the right breath, the right blink, the right move, and the final round had just begun. The two fighters stood still in the center of the ring. Dust floated in the air. The crowd had fallen silent again. Every eye was locked on the field. The final match had reached its middle point, but neither fighter had landed a winning strike. Vela's hands were tight on her blades. Her arms were tense, her legs strong, but her breath had changed. She no longer charged without thought. She no longer swung wildly. She had stopped trying to chase Tom with speed alone. She now saw something she didn't see before. Tom stood across from her, feet spread just enough, body calm, eyes focused. His left arm still showed the bruises from the last match, but it didn't stop him. His moves came from control, not power. From reading his opponent, not reacting late. Vela took one step forward. Tom shifted his weight to the right. Vela paused. She watched his feet this time, not his face. She stepped again, left, then right, blades held lower. Tom didn't move. She rushed forward without warning, spun to the side, and aimed one blade at his chest. At the same time, she lifted the second blade toward his neck. Tom ducked low, blocked the lower blade with his elbow, and stepped inside her reach. She reacted fast, pulling back, but Tom used his shoulder to bump her sideways. Vela slid across the floor, but stayed on her feet. She was smiling now. "You're not like the others," she said. "You make the fight smaller." Tom answered, "You make the fight louder." The crowd was watching without blinking. For the first time in the tournament, Vela's pride had turned into respect. She circled again, but slower this time. Her steps were more careful. She no longer believed. She was faster in every way. She now knew she had to change her thinking. She struck again, but this time with a fake move. She pretended to go left and turn right. Her blade swept low, aiming for Tom's leg. Tom twisted. Not back, but forward. He dropped onto one knee and rolled past her attack. When he rose behind her, he didn't strike. He tapped her on the shoulder and stepped away. The crowd cheered. Even some of the alien warriors who had once laughed were now watching with wide eyes. Vela stood still for a moment. Her face was serious again. "You're teaching me during the fight," she said. Tom said nothing. "You're showing me my mistake," she added. "I was fighting to win. You were fighting to learn." Tom's eyes stayed on her blades. "I fight to survive," he said. "On Earth, pride does not keep us alive." She nodded. "I always thought speed was everything, but you were never trying to be faster. I only needed to last long enough for you to slow down," Tom replied. Vela took a deep breath. Her pride was breaking, but not in shame. She was learning, growing in the middle of battle. This was the kind of match she had never faced, not in all the systems she had fought in, not in all her victories. Now she understood the truth. Tom had never been slow. He had only moved when it mattered. She adjusted her grip on her blades. Then, with a calm face, she said, "Let's finish this." Tom nodded once. The match changed again. Both fighters now respected each other fully. They no longer moved to show off. They moved with purpose. Each strike had a reason. Each dodge had a goal. There was no wasted energy. Vela struck low and turned her wrist. Tom blocked and pushed her back. Tom stepped forward with a light jab. Vela parried and answered with a short spin. Their weapons touched only once in that exchange, but the sound of it echoed across the arena. The announcer spoke again. "They are not fighting like rivals. They are fighting like mirrors." At one point, Vela stepped too far. Her left foot landed on loose stone. Her balance shifted. Tom saw the opening. He moved in, ready to end it, but he stopped. Vela looked up. He gave her time to step back. She stood straight and said, "Why didn't you strike?" Tom answered, "Because now you're fighting like a human. I want to win at your best, not your worst." The crowd cheered louder than ever. Many stood, even in other cities across the planet. People clapped, not for power, but for honor. Vela tightened her grip. "Then prepare. This time, I will not fall." Tom raised his hands. "I'm ready." The final minutes of the match had begun. Both moved again, fast, smooth, dangerous. Vela no longer swung wildly. She tested, waited, and read his movements. She used silence. Between her steps, she used pauses, things she had once ignored. Tom felt it. The rhythm had changed. She had adapted. Now she moved with the same patience he once used alone. Their fight was close now, a real match, evenly matched. The next mistake would decide it all. The sky above was filled with flying cameras. The whole galaxy was watching. Down on the ground, Tom and Vela stood still once more. Sweat dripped from their faces. Arms were tired, legs burned. But both were smiling now, not from victory, not from pride, but from respect. They had given each other something more than a fight. They had given each other growth. And soon, one of them would fall, but neither would lose. The sun was high in the sky now. The arena was quiet except for the sounds of breathing and movement from the two fighters. Sweat glistened on their skin and armor. The final fight had reached its last moments. Tom and Vela stood across from each other, ready for the last attack. Both were tired, but their eyes burned with determination. Vela raised her blade slowly. Her breathing was steady. She no longer rushed. She knew Tom was waiting for her mistake. Tom held his hands low. His injured arm trembled, but his mind was clear. He was ready for what was coming. The crowd watched in silence. Millions across the galaxy were watching too. The interworld combat trials had never been this close. Vela smiled softly. "This is the end," she said. Tom nodded. Suddenly, Vela moved fast. She used a fake strike with one blade. Tom reacted quickly and stepped back. But then, he disappeared. The crowd gasped. One moment he was in front of her, and the next, he was gone. Vela swung her blades wildly, trying to find him. But Tom was not in the arena anymore. The announcer shouted. Tom vanished. "Where did he go?" Suddenly, a soft touch was felt on Vela's back. She turned quickly. Tom was behind her. Before she could react, Tom tapped her shoulder lightly and then vanished again. The crowd was on its feet. They could not believe what they were seeing. Vela tried to strike again, but Tom was gone. She spun. But he had moved fast without rushing, not with speed, but with perfect timing. She was stunned. Tom reappeared in front of her. "I told you," he said. "You won't see me." Vela smiled, but this time it was not a smile of mockery. It was respect. The two circled slowly, both tired, but neither giving up. Vela lunged once more. Tom moved like water, flowing with her attack and using her force against her. With one quick move, Tom used his good arm to push Vela's shoulder, unbalancing her. Vela fell to her knees. The crowd held its breath. Tom stood over her. He extended his hand. Vela looked up and took it. The announcer's voice rang out loud and clear. "Tom of Earth wins the Interworld Combat Trials." The crowd erupted with cheers. Vela smiled and said softly, "You were never slow. You were waiting." Tom nodded, waiting for the right moment. That day, humans earn respect not just for their strength, but for their mind and spirit. Vela and Tom stood side by side, not just as fighters, but as new allies. The galaxy had learned a powerful lesson. Never underestimate a human who waits. The arena was empty now. The sun had set, and the stars shone brightly above planet Oron. The crowd had left. The noise had faded, but two figures remained near the center of the field. Tom and Vela stood side by side. The fight was over, but their journey had only just begun. Vela looked at Tom with new respect. She spoke softly. "You taught me more than any teacher could." Tom smiled. "We taught each other." Vela nodded. "Your patience, your control. It is something my people do not always see." Tom looked at the sky. "Humans live in a world where strength alone is not enough. We learn to wait, to think, and to survive." Vela's eyes shone. "I was proud and fast. I thought speed was all that mattered." "And sometimes it is," Tom said, "but not always." Vela looked back at the arena floor. "I want to learn more from you," Tom agreed, "and I want to learn from you too." Over the next days, Vela stayed on Oron. She and Tom trained. Together, they shared stories of their worlds and their battles. Vela taught Tom new techniques of speed and attack. Tom showed Vela how to use patience and timing. The other fighters watched with surprise. The greatest warrior of Velen Prime learning from a human. It was a story that spread quickly. The Interworld Council invited them to speak. They shared their lesson with all who would listen. "Strength is more than muscle," Tom said. "It is heart, mind, and spirit, and speed is not just fast movement," Vela added. "It is control and understanding." Their words inspired many. New fighters began to train differently. New warriors learned that pride must be tempered with wisdom. Earth's name grew in the galaxy, not as a weak planet, but as a place of clever, patient fighters who could stand against any challenge. Vela and Tom became partners. They traveled together, teaching others to fight with honor and skill. One day, Vela asked Tom, "Do you think the galaxy is ready for humans to lead?" Tom smiled. "We will see. But one thing is sure. We will never be slow again." And so, what started as a taunt ended with a promise that humans would rise. A promise that waiting is sometimes the greatest power of all.